What's up? A to Z Sports Live on this Monday, a Victory Monday for the last time this season for the Tennessee Titans, but also Black Monday around the NFL as keep your head on a swivel if you received an NFL paycheck this past season, because you never know what might happen on the Monday after the regular season ends. And what a regular season finale it was for the Tennessee Titans, a vintage throwback victory over Jacksonville in Nashville and Nissan Stadium on Sunday with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill and tough-nosed defense leading the way to a 28-20 victory in Nissan Stadium. We've been talking about it for a while. Could this have been the last of Derrick Henry in two-tone blue? We'll play a lot of great video from yesterday's game, before the game, and after the game that we were able to get. Shout out to Sam and Buck from A to Z from going down there in the tunnel and getting some really strong video for you guys as well for our social media. Zach, it's going to be a fantastic show today. We've got an interesting conversation because the Titans won a game. They knocked the Jags out of the playoffs. There's something to that for Titans fans, but you also cost yourself a spot in the NFL draft. So we'll discuss, was it worth it to finish 6-11 and send out Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill potentially that way, or would it have been better to be 5-12 and have the 6th pick in the NFL draft instead of the 7th? We'll wrap up with the age game, but a lot of fantastic Derrick Henry video and conversation to be had all in between. Zach, welcome in. Hope you had a great weekend. Let's get this thing rolling.
Yeah, let's get this thing rolling officially. And look, we got a little celebration. We've officially hit 100,000 followers on Facebook. So,
update the sales sheet, Andrew. We got a new number there.
We've passed the century mark, and so on the day after the season finale, there's a lot of emotions, I think, from a lot of different Titans fans that were at the game, watching the game, that have watched Derrick Henry's career and Ryan Tannehill. And the Titans beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot to get to, a lot to talk about. We are broadcasting live on 3 different platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We will tweet out segment by segment, link by link on our Twitter account /X account at A to Z Sports. If you're a Titans fan, follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports. Just search us right there in the search bar and get locked right there. We've got great content coming in during the season and all off season. So you want to make sure you subscribe there. If you're on YouTube, that's probably the easiest way right now to watch our live streaming shows. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you've already subscribed, go ahead and hit the like button on this video. It helps the algorithm circulate. We're trying to get to 100K on YouTube like we just got on Facebook. We need your help to grow our community and to help the conversation. That's the whole key of the community in the chat, is the conversation, all of the opinions, and we'll get to those throughout today's show. Facebook, what's going on? Facebookers, bottom left corner of your screen. Share, not a public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing, as we say on this show on this Victory Monday. As Austin said, the last Victory Monday of this past season. A lot of change coming on the horizon, but we will take a look back at yesterday's game. Got a lot to get to. Let's get this party started on a Monday.
Yep, this is going officially. Welcome to the A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. We are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also, hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. You got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai, WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Make them a part of your new car buying process, or go see them in Lebanon. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations across the mid-state in Columbia, Murfreesboro, and Franklin. Online for them at KrebsKubota.com. So, Zach, yesterday was a hell of a day. I think for a lot of people who cover the Tennessee Titans, who follow the Tennessee Titans, the fan base of the Tennessee Titans, sending the Jags home. We'll talk about that throughout it, but ending the Jags season in epic vintage fashion. Derrick Henry runs for 153. Ryan Tannehill starting because Will Levis could not go with his new foot injury. He tried to practice through the week. Ryan Tannehill, efficient, throwing a couple touchdowns. Did have an interception, but overall, a really strong performance by Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry together with some tough defense. And Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, we're going to have a lot of really good video today because that's what this post-game press conference situation was like at Nissan Stadium. But here was Ryan Tannehill on a fun day and getting to witness what could be the end of Derrick Henry as a Tennessee Titan.
Yeah, it was a fun day. Fun day for a lot of different reasons, but to be able to finish the season out, finish my time out here with a win, it was a lot of fun. It felt really good.
Watching Derrick run like that, season high in yards, I think that makes the two of you together like 33 and 20 when you start together. It's nice to see him have that day as well.
Yeah, no question. Obviously, Derrick's been so consistent during his time here, and to see him, have the day he had today was a lot of fun for me as well. I know when I turn my head and he gets through the line of scrimmage without much contact, there's a chance at being a big one, and he had a couple of those today, as well as the tough yards that he's been consistent with, over the last 5 years. So, big day from him and a lot of fun to see him have that success.
So there's Ryan Tannehill, and as much hate as Ryan Tannehill's getting there in the chat for my saying Ryan Tannehill a strong performance. Look, those two guys, 17 and 22 together, Zach, over this 5-year stretch, as Teresa Walker said, 33 and 20 record, and a lot of success overall for this Tennessee Titans organization that really changed the way the organization was viewed for so long in this last stretch here.
Won a lot of games that they were not picked to win. Yeah. And Ryan Tannehill, I think, exceeded expectations when he was traded, right? Traded from Miami, replaced Marcus Mariota, took over as the full-time starter, and he was a true professional. Easy to be a true professional with a $100 million contract, but he has. But
he didn't come in there like that,
ups
though.
and downs. He earned that contract by getting them and getting them to the AFC Championship game alongside Derrick Henry. And yeah, Titans fans, you got to look back at the past, and when you do, you look back and you say, they won some really hard-fought games down the stretch, whether it was Tannehill leading back drives to kick field goals or score touchdowns to win, Derrick Henry running wild over Jacksonville or Houston or some of the other teams that they faced. The epic game against Kansas City a handful of years ago at home. So, there were some really good memories. And Ryan Tannehill, when this franchise was in a little bit of disarray after drafting Marcus Mariota with the number 2 overall pick, not knowing where they should go and kind of finding out that Mariota was not the guy, John Robinson has made some bad moves, right? We all know that. Those have been documented. But him trading for Ryan Tannehill, having Miami pay for some of his salary, and then Tannehill taking over and playing as well as he had, over the last several years, then riddled by injury towards the end. We all know how that kind of worked out. But yesterday, we go with the one-word route. Mine is the easiest one word possible. I don't know what you did yesterday, but this was vintage. This is vintage Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. That is the only word that popped into my mind. It is the perfect word, in my opinion, for what we saw yesterday to capitalize with a win, also exceeding expectations of scoring more points than we're used to. They almost got to 30. They didn't get to 30, but they almost got to 30, but they scored in the first half. They had the lead, and they tried to control and ended up, they played good defense and ran the football, and they won the football game.
Yeah, and Zach, we had the same exact one word. We didn't even talk about that, but vintage was my one word from the post-game show that Jack and I did wrapping up our season at Acme, where, hey, shout out Sean Gill. We did get to meet Sean Gill and his superstar son, Chase, who scores all the touchdowns and shoots all the threes and everything there. So we got a lot of good moments there. Yesterday was a big day, and vintage is exactly what that was, because it was so representative of what the last 5 to 6, this is 6 years of Vrabel, right? But the first year Vrabel didn't have Tannehill. And so I think vintage of the 5 years of Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry together, I don't know how many wins the Titans have had with those two guys where Derrick Henry is well over 100 yards rushing and Ryan Tannehill throws multiple touchdowns without going over 200 yards. It's probably quite a bit. Like that specific of a stat box score look for what this Titans team is and the defense making plays, the amount of fourth down stops that we've seen over these years. I mean, you can think like yesterday, Trevor Lawrence with his Roger McCreary short arms couldn't quite get there. It reminded me of the Chargers stopping them with Jarrell Casey back in the day and Jeffrey Simmons' first game. The Patriots, Rashawn Evans and Simmons stuff in the playoffs. I mean, there's Lamar Jackson getting stopped on fourth down by David Long slicing through there in the playoffs the week after that. I mean, there's been so many fourth down big time stops by this defense and opportunistic penalties and then big 60+ yard run from Henry. And now you throw in there's been a lot of DeAndre Hopkins touchdowns that time in Nissan Stadium, but now Tannehill gets to throw one to D-Hop as a member of the Titans. Vintage is the perfect word for it.
You know, and it's like that old recipe. Maybe like your mom used to make chocolate chip cookies or banana bread or something. You hadn't had it in a long time. And then you tasted yesterday what a Titans win. And look at the stat sheet. You said it. Ryan Tannehill throwing 25 times, not 30, not 35, not 40, 25 times for over 150 yards, a couple of touchdown passes, an interception, right? A mistake has happened. And then Derrick Henry over 100, 120 yards, and he got his touchdown.
Yeah.
That is the recipe, my friends. That was the recipe. And when you pull that recipe out of the old bread box and you sit there and you're like, wow, it tastes just the same. And that's probably the last time. Well, it is the last time you're going to taste that recipe forever. It's gone. And it was, I don't know, it was nostalgic. It was vintage. It was all of these words to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars in a very meaningful game for them. This was the season. It was just like last year, except only one team was playing for it all. And the Titans played spoiler to a arch rival. I mean, they don't like Jacksonville. Jacksonville does not like Tennessee. And I'm sure there's a lot of smiles in that locker room knowing when you beat your division rival and keep them out of the playoffs, especially the favorite. The Jags were the favorite to start the year. The Jags were the favorite throughout the course of the year. And then some treacherous waters hit them mid-season, and they never got back to smooth sailing. And now they're back. They're docked up for the foreseeable future for the offseason.
Well, from 8-3 to not making the playoffs, Sean Murphy Bunting put it perfectly in the locker room after knocking the Jags out of the playoffs.
Any extra at all, like denying Jacksonville winning this division on your home field?
You want to know the truth?
Yes.
Absolutely. They got to beat me in Cancun. So, I mean, you know, they payback. I guess that's what you call it, right? They got us out last year, so it was only right we returned the favor.
What's it say about the character of this?
So Cancun, meet me in Cancun, docked up right there because you know sure as hell they're not staying in Jacksonville. They're getting home, getting packed up, and leaving Duval County because they ain't going to the playoffs. They're not hosting a playoff game. The Jags are done. Toast. Good riddance, Jacksonville Jaguars from the NFL playoffs. But Zach, the Titans won a game they had no business or no need to win, and they dropped a spot in the NFL draft because if the Titans had lost that game and they were underdogs in the game, then they would be picking 6th in the NFL draft. With all the things that happened yesterday across the NFL, the Titans would have had a 6th overall pick in the draft, but now they have a 7th overall pick in the draft because they beat the Jags to keep them out of the playoffs. So, was the Titans' win to end the Jags season worth dropping the 1 pick in the NFL draft? Was it worth it? That's the overall question. Was it worth it? But Zach, if you could, please tell us about Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Yeah, Farm Bureau Health Plans was worth it and has been worth it and still is worth it, in my opinion, because I'm still using them. Farm Bureau Health Plans of Tennessee has helped me and my family. They can help you and your family. 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. If you're a Tennessean, you really need to look at this plan. Get a quote today. I did it in January 2 years ago. So it doesn't really matter what time you do it. You take a quick health assessment, you get a quote within 24 to 48 hours, and then you make the decision. Look, you can do whatever the hell you want. You don't have to make this decision, but it was really easy once I got the quote and once I learned what the plan was for me. Whether it's individually, you and your family, the wife and kids, the husband and kids, it does not matter. Health, dental, and vision, they've got different plans for each and every person. That's Farm Bureau Health Plans of Tennessee. They're trusted by A to Z Sports. They're trusted by the Tennessee Titans and organizations all across the state. That's FBHP, Farm Bureau Health Plans, FBHP.com/A to Z, a great sponsor here on A to Z Sports.
Also with BetMGM, another great sponsor here with A to Z Sports. You can always win big with our bonus code ATOZ Sports. That's ATOZ Sports to get up to $1,500 back in your in bonus bets if your first bet misses. This is the time, right, Zach? We got a big game tonight to wrap up college football. You go get the BetMGM app, and now you've got playoffs about to start in pro football with BetMGM on top of college hoops, pro hoops, everything right there with BetMGM. So download the app and use our code ATOZ Sports to get up to $1,500 off back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. It's the only new customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification, eligible requirements. First online room money wager only. Rewards issued knowledgeable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days. And for problem game sport, call Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789. So the Titans win. They knock the Jags out of the playoffs, but they drop one spot in the draft pick from 6th to 7th. Was it worth it? Was all of that worth dropping the spot in the NFL draft order behind the Giants, where if they would have lost the game, they would have been ahead of the new football Giants? Zach, I'll send you to the chat. Was it worth it? Yes or no?
Taylor says absolutely it was worth it. Duran says no. Tyler says yes. Deshaun Washington, yes. Duh. Chris also agrees. Ashley goes 100. She says yes. Dave says yes. IR says yes. So does Lucas and Bork and Steven. This is a runaway. I'd take the win. So worth it. Definitely worth it. Absolutely. A lot of chat members are like, lose out over the last couple of weeks. And now all of a sudden, last game of the season against Jacksonville, and a lot on the line. A lot of the chat is going, yes, it was worth it. Like Titans Kyle. Wasn't worth it, but it was cool from Curtis. Absolutely worth it from Gene Gray. It was worth it from Nick. Yes, from Maven. Devin says yes. Mark D, yes. Jody, every time from Nathaniel. This is a runaway. Devin Williamson says yes. Kelvin says yes. Isaac says yes. Unless they got the 4th. So there's a stipulation there. Totally worth it from Justin. Scott says yes. So tons of yeses. This is a runaway from the chat. Jeffrey, Lucas, Puka, everybody is saying yes. Austin, now we know what we know. Do you think it was worth it?
Well, I went in I'm setting this up. I went into yesterday's pregame show. Jack and I asked, there's 4 storylines. Which is more important? It's Derrick Henry's last game, the Mike Vrabel rumors we'll talk about throughout the week, ruining the Jags playoff, or the potential to get a top 5 draft pick, right? Those are the 4 storylines that went into yesterday. I said the most important storyline was the potential to get a top 5 draft pick. Now, you had to have a bunch of other stuff happen for you to get there. And it got really close. The Chargers lost late, the Cardinals lost late, and the Giants blew out the Eagles, and the Eagles have got a lot of problems going on. So it was really close to being the 4th overall pick, but if the Titans would have lost. Was it worth it? My official answer, Zach, is going to be in the immediate, everybody's going to feel good about this, but this could be painful in April. So my official answer is going to be long-term. I don't think it's going to be worth it. Because, and I'll go deeper in this. I don't know where you're going to go. I have no idea what your answer is, but I asked Jack in the pregame show, do you remember Eddie George's last game as a Titan? Do you remember Steve's? Do you remember Bruce Matthews? Do you remember Keith Bullocks? Do you remember Blaine Bishops? Do you remember all of these great former Titans that went out and their career will always end at some point? Do you remember their last moments? No, you don't. You remember the other moments that made them great, that made you remember them, that made them important in your Titans fandom, but you don't remember the last one. Like, what's the timeline? What is the expiration date on everybody watching us remembering yesterday? How far did that go? Next year? Like Pecorine. I grew up watching Pecorine in goal for the Preds for a long time. Do I remember Pecorine's last game that was like 4 years? I mean, vaguely. Like I remember there being a night. I have no idea if they won or lost. I remember Pekka had a great skate around the ice, and that was it in Bridgestone. But that's all. I don't remember if they won or lost. I don't remember who they played. So what's the expiration date on you remembering Derrick Henry's last game and that they beat the Jags and knocked them out of the playoffs? I don't think it's that long. And so the 6th pick to the 7th pick might sound like one spot, but man, this could be really interesting to see how the draft plays out, because we know there's 2 quarterbacks. If there's a 3rd quarterback, you feel better, but you don't know because there's 2 tackles that you like and there's 2 wide receivers that you like. And guess what? 2 quarterbacks, 2 tackles, 2 wide receivers, that's 6 and you're at 7. So what are you picking there? You need somebody else to break that up, or you might get a player or be in a spot to where what you wanted is already gone. And now what's that win mean to you? So my official answer is long-term, no, it's not worth it.
So
I don't know where you're going to go with it.
Well,
I have no idea where you're going to go with this.
Usually I would agree with you. But I think that yesterday's win did 2 things that I value. The Giants, because you're going to flip with the Giants, right? Let's just talk about that real quick. The Giants are in need of a left tackle, right? So you cannot deny that. But they're also in need of a quarterback. Like, you could sit there and if the Giants pick Jaden Daniels out of LSU, wouldn't be surprised, right? So that wouldn't matter. We don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of time up until the draft in Detroit in April. But I think it does 2 things that I think override that, surprisingly. Let's start with Jacksonville. It kills their momentum. Mm-hmm. Last year, Jacksonville had a ton of momentum, and they won a playoff game because of it, right? And Jacksonville's a trendy team, right, over the next course. Now, they've been derailed a little bit because of Trevor Lawrence's injury, and you saw that yesterday. If Trevor Lawrence is healthy, I don't think he misses like 5 throws that he missed, which were very impactful in their valiant effort to come back.
Like I thought about
you feel like his shoulder, something's wrong with his shoulder. He was high on balls that Rusty Smith could have made some of those throws.
Yeah, he missed high a lot, but
I think that was due to his shoulder injury.
And
these were easy throws.
But he was still able to get the ball where he wanted to get. Like he was still able.
No, that's the point. He was unable to get the ball to where he wanted to go.
No, I'm talking about from an arm strength standpoint, he was able to deliver the football as far down the field as he wanted it to. He had Calvin Ridley wide the F open and should have, and missed it by 6 inches that could have potentially tied this game at 28 all if they went for 2 and made it, right? Like, so I think his shoulder is not an excuse that should be made for the missed opportunities the Jags had, because he was out there.
Austin Stanley, you didn't watch that game, obviously. You cannot sit there and tell me that Trevor Lawrence's shoulder was in good condition. The amount of bad throws that he had are not bad throws that he made last season. Like, come on, Austin, don't fool yourself there.
I'm not saying
that was a part of that. So to go to my point is, what it does is it rids Trevor Lawrence of any momentum, and it prevents a division rival from making the playoffs. Now 2 teams, the Jags and the Texans, make the playoffs, right? Those are 2 teams that can gain momentum, and the odds of one of those 2 teams winning goes up. to now advance. That matters. That matters in free agency, on the trajectory of your team, how other free agents perceive where you're headed. I think that was impactful. I think the other thing of why I said that it was worth it, the Swan Song, I think you made a fair point of like, we don't remember any of the last games. No. I do think we'll remember Derrick Henry's. I think Derrick Henry is an outlier for where we are in what we view Titans football as. You will remember Derrick Henry's final game forever. I know you will, especially because we talked about it. Well, the others are fair.
Yeah, but like
Derrick Henry's different. He's the greatest running back in franchise history.
Here's my point.
He is the face of the entire franchise. We can get into like bigger stuff. He surpassed Steve McNair and Eddie George and Frank Wycheck and Chris Johnson and all the other greats. It is now Derrick Henry, right? And his last game will now be remembered more so than some of the other guys.
Look, and somebody, Malachi, look, is correct on this. Derrick Henry is in the era of social media. The others weren't, right? So we will have some of these videos we're going to play coming up here. And our Instagram feed is gold, guys. Go watch it. It is incredible. And shout out, I already said it before, shout out to Buck and Sam and Jake and Parker and Matt and Adam and everybody else a part of that, because we put planning into that and they executed it to perfection, because we got some great stuff that's going to live for forever. Where the last time Frank Wycheck walked off a Nissan Stadium's field wearing his jersey and pads,
we had a razor in our hand.
Yeah, maybe.
And I'm not talking about shaving.
No, maybe. Maybe it was like a Nokia brick. I don't know what the cell phones were in 2003.
That's why my counterpoint to you is like, you're saying you will remember. So now it's more important.
Hold on.
That's just one of my reasonings.
It's not that I won't remember it. It's just that where does it follow in the list of Derrick Henry things I remember first?
Austin, the speech that we'll play later on in that show, or in this show, is one of it was so eloquent and so on point that you will remember it. It will be played again and again when we talk about Derrick Henry, when he is in the Ring of Honor for the Tennessee Titans, when he's in the Hall of Fame. That's where I think you're wrong in this scenario. I agree with the previous guys, Pekka and all the other guys. That was just a night. I think yesterday was different. Here is the last thing that I'll say on why I think it was worth one spot. And the chat may not like this, but I think it helps. And I don't know what's going to happen here in the next week or so, but I think it helps Mike Vrabel's case. I think if they get the break speed off of him, I think now Mike Vrabel starts to look at things differently. The final game does matter. Ask Arthur Smith. The final game does matter, and I think that is impactful in keeping the core of Mike Vrabel. Look, we got a lot of opinions on if Mike Vrabel should stay or go. We'll talk about those at length, in the future, and especially when he speaks maybe today or whenever. But I also think that's impactful for Rand and Amy and Kenneth and Vrabel and the core of what they have to continue on. So I think that's impactful. Now, maybe if you don't want Vrabel to be the head coach, you wish that they would have lost. I don't know. You as a general term. But those are the reasons why I think that it's probably worth the one spot. The Giants aren't a division rival. They're not in your conference. They're quarterback needy. Are you still going to get the pick of the litter? I'd say probably for your tackle. I don't know that for a fact, but I think all of the things that I've said outweigh the one spot.
All right. So real quick, I want to run through some of those things. But Kane has a super chat here, says PK right or wrong about the 5th pick at the Titans loss. So that's Zach, Sam, and I pre-show. We're like, all right, let's make sure we've got this correct. If the Titans would have lost yesterday to Jacksonville, they would have had the 6th pick, not the 5th. And it all goes into strength of schedule because the Giants won. If the Titans would have lost, the Jags would have had an extra win, and the Jags count twice because the Titans play them twice. So that would have had the Titans' strength of schedule be more difficult than the Chargers, and the Chargers would have still had the 5th pick.
No,
So Sam,
stop. No, you're complicating it. It's very simple. The reason why strength of schedule comes into play, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago. If there is a 3-way tie, there would not have been a 3 or a 4-way tie. There would have been just Chargers versus the Titans.
It's not head to head, Zach. And I was when we talked about this initially, I was incorrect by saying that head to head matters when it's 1 versus 1. It's strength of schedule all told. Like it is all told strength of schedule. I was incorrect on that. It's all strength of schedule the entire way. It's not about head to head. Head to head does not have anything to do with the draft order. It is only strength of schedule based. And if it would have been so close, but the Titans would have had a slightly more difficult strength of schedule than the Chargers. But that, it's super detailed. It's by like a 1,000th of a point when it comes to strength of schedule. It does not have anything to do with head to head. I think it should, because here's what my case would be, Zach. That if the Titans and Chargers were both 5-12, the Chargers won 5 games outside of that head-to-head matchup. The Titans only won 4 outside that matchup. So there is a little bit of something saying the Chargers are more capable than the Titans, because outside of each other, outside of that one common game, the Chargers were more successful than the Titans. But then you have the head-to-head of the Chargers beat the Titans. But there's a lot of weird things you can go into it. But it is strength of schedule, and it is only strength of schedule. And that is all that it is. So the Titans would not have the 5th pick. If the Chargers and the Cardinals would have won, and those were close games, and the Titans would have lost, they would have jumped the Cardinals and the Chargers potentially there too, because the Chargers would have had 6 wins, and the Cardinals' strength of schedule was more difficult than the Titans. So it was fairly close to having everything happen. Now, where would we be today, and what would our question be, Zach? If the Titans won, which they did, let's say the Cardinals and the Chargers win. So we're not talking 7th or 6th. What would it have been worth it for 7th or 4th?
Yeah,
now that's
yes. The answer is yes. Now
you still think it would be worth it?
Yeah. No. Is it
no?
No.
4th?
No. If you're picking 4th, the question was 1 pick. So look,
right.
Ifs and buts, beers and nuts. You've gone through a lot of different scenarios that didn't happen. So ultimately, they don't matter. At the end of the day, 1 pick with the New York Giants, I think you take what you got yesterday. Instead, if you are picking 5th or 4th, then no, you need to lose. But that is more impactful. The thing, though,
is that the Titans won that game before any of the other games that affected their draft.
Right, but we now know what happened. So, look, The Titans are picking 7th. We know that. You can't do anything about it. 7th is not a terrible spot to be in, and it's crazy of where they were yesterday compared to where they picked last year and where they were trying to fight for the playoffs. That's kudos to the NFL. They keep you all the way down to the wire, right? And so the Titans are picking where they've picked. What happened. This is probably the last day that we'll talk about, was it worth it? Because it is what it is, right? And you get to, I think, kind of revel in what Derrick Henry did yesterday. And I think Derrick Henry was very appreciative of that moment. That was hard earned. He had been, you talk about frustrated Derrick Henry, the most frustrated Derrick Henry that we've seen since DeMarco Murray was taking playing time. He could not get things going. He didn't have answers after the game, and he finally ends on a really good note. And I think that was also valuable to the Titans fan base. Look at the chat. Austin, were you surprised? The chat was 100%. They said it was worth it. I think there was
one guy, I can't remember who it was, but said wasn't worth it, but it was a fun day or something like that, right? And that's kind of how I am. In the long term, the game, winning the game wasn't worth it. And maybe it was Curtis, I think it was actually, that said that. But it was a great day. I enjoyed my time. Jack and I have been at Acme a lot this season. Acme is phenomenal to go watch a game at and experience the season. But when you're winning 5 games leading up to that point, it's a long day to be up there in a sports bar and having to do a post-game show after yet another excruciating loss because you got 2 punts blocked and your punter got killed, and then Jeffrey Simmons is hurt, and then you lose the next week to the Houston Texans at home in overtime because you can't make extra points. Like, there's a lot of things that go into that season. So was it a way more fun way to end the year? Yeah. Do I appreciate and enjoy the fact that Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry and Danico Autry and some others potentially are going out the door with that type of locker room celebration? Hell yeah. Like, that's great for those guys.
Those are all feel good. I think preventing the Jags and keeping Vrabel, those are your impact moments.
So those
I want to address 2 things that matter.
So I want to address those 2 things here before we get to Derrick Henry stuff. Because you brought that up and I wanted to kind of earmark it mentally for that. So I'm going to address what yesterday was for Vrabel, in my opinion, and about the Jags here in a second. But first, Krebs Kubota is where you should turn for all of your equipment needs. KrebsKubota.com is their website. The website is phenomenal. Go check it out, KrebsKubota.com. They are an elite Kubota dealer, which means they have the best equipment in the industry and also the best warranties in the industry for that equipment, plus the best customer service, because Krebs Kubota has been a family-owned and operated company for 18 plus years, and they've done so well. They've grown from just Columbia to Franklin and Murfreesboro along with it. So whenever you need that piece of equipment, it's about that time to start getting your property ready, the projects that you have lined up for when the warm weather gets here in the spring. Krebs Kubota can help you organize and set up that plan to be productive and hit the ground running when you're ready, because Krebs Kubota, they're always ready for you. Once again, Columbia, Murfreesboro, and in Franklin, online, KrebsKubota.com.
A to Z Sports powered by BetMGM. Bonus code ATOZ Sports. You got the big game tonight. You'll be watching the College National Championship. King of the Sportsbooks got you covered when it comes to placing a bet. BetMGM. Download the app today and use the bonus code ATOZ Sports right there on the screen. That we trust BetMGM. You should trust them as well.
All right, so Zach, real quick, before I dive into this, kind of reset briefly your opinions on what yesterday meant for Mike Vrabel and what yesterday meant, in your opinion, for knocking the Jags out of the playoffs.
So you said that yesterday was not worth the pick that you lose. Instead of picking 7th, you pick 6th. You know, the Giants are above you. I say that it actually is. And I think this is a good conversation because I think it's close. I think both are justified, but I think 3 things. The first, the feel-goods, right? We talked about the feel-goods,
sure,
and obviously the fans in the chat agree with the feel-goods. I think they will be remembered based on social media, Derrick Henry, the impact of the franchise. But the 2 more impactful things are you prevent the Jacksonville Jaguars for going back-to-back AFC South champions, creating momentum, and getting into the playoff for a second time, hosting a second playoff game in 2 years. And they won last year's home playoff game, right? They make more money. They get fans involved. That could hurt the home field advantage for the Titans as they go to Duval if people are yelling louder down there in Florida than they have been, and now they're sour grapes. And then the other and last part, I do think Mike Vrabel has been a topic of conversation over the last several weeks, probably dating back to longer than he should be a conversation. But because of how the season has happened, because of the reports, there's been question on if Mike Vrabel is going to remain the Titans head coach. The Patriots, that's a question mark about Bill Belichick. So a lot of rumors have been swirling. Ending on the note that he did, I think, is a positive for ownership in their minds of what they think about Mike Vrabel, having his team fight into the end and not getting beat up like the Atlanta Falcons did yesterday, and then they canned Arthur Smith. 2 separate situations, mind you, but I do think that the win impacts Vrabel's mindset and probably their conversation that they'll have this week with ownership talking about the future of the franchise and who's a part of it.
All right, so I want to talk about the Jags momentum halted first because I think the Vrabel thing is we'll have more to discuss on it. Momentum in the NFL and beyond is only as good as what you do with it after you get the momentum, right? Like, the Tennessee Titans are the last AFC South team to win back-to-back AFC South titles. And what did it do? Like it came to an end. Like the Titans had great momentum of AFC South championship game. The next year, won the division for the first time in a long time. The next year after that, won the division again. And here we are. They blew both the playoff opportunities. So they didn't do anything with that momentum. In my opinion, with that type of Jacksonville Jaguars team that we watched yesterday, I don't necessarily think they would have done much with that playoff opportunity because of what that team's currently going through.
Did you think that the Titans were going to make the AFC Championship game the year that they made the AFC Championship game?
That's I mean,
playoffs?
No, but like,
no one
but here's the difference in that. Hold on. Here's the difference in that. The Titans were a 2-4 football team with Marcus Mariota, switched quarterbacks, finished 9-7. Easy math tells me that's 7-3 after that quarterback change, which is and on the end of the season, I'd rather go 7-3 in the last 10 games than 7-3 in the first 10 games. Ask the Eagles, ask the Jags. Like the Jags were 8-3, falling off. Eagles,
but the point is, you don't know what would have happened.
And that's my point.
You can't sit here and state that you do, because there have been many teams that have been doubted and have made runs.
Well, but here, I'll ask you this. The Jags, you could say, got a lot of that positive momentum last year by winning the division, and they won a playoff game. Where are they at this year? What they do?
Well, I think they started the year pretty well.
Yeah,
I think that momentum did carry over. There was something in the middle of the season that we said, Austin, I'm going to bring up another point to counterpoint you. You prevent the Texans, who is the most surging team in your division, from having a home playoff game. Houston's going to be rocking tonight, and it's going to be rocking next week. And CJ Stroud has turned that city upside down, and that team is going to be favored next year. You prevent that.
No, you don't. You allowed that. You allowed the Texans to have a home playoff game by beating the Jags.
The Jags have the play. No, the Jags win. They host the playoffs. They are the AFC South champions. Houston then has to go on the road in the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's not what you said. You said the Titans could have prevented the Texans to get a home playoff game. The Titans allowed the
you have two teams in your division in the playoffs.
I understand that, but like you just said that the Titans allowed the Texans to have a home playoff game.
There's two teams now in the playoffs.
I think okay, we got a little off there, but anyway, I still think I don't think this version of the Jags that we watched would have done anything with that playoff momentum that they would have gained by beating the Titans. I think, and I don't think it really means that much moving forward. I think the Jags, if the Jags won yesterday and they went to the playoffs, regardless of what happened in the playoffs, the Jags would have had to reconfigure a little bit because of the December slide that they've made. It's not like, were the Jags a Super Bowl contender? No. Like, I feel like the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Dolphins all are.
No 7-6 seed is a Super Bowl contender, but they have an opportunity.
They would have been a 4 seed, though. That's what I'm saying. The Jags would have been a 4 seed. They would have either won the division or been out, which they're not out.
You'd view the Jags like the Bucs in the NFC.
Right. And that team typically doesn't do anything in the playoffs. And so my whole point is that I don't think the Jags making the playoffs would have just ramped them up for an era of contending. But all right, so now on the Mike Vrabel thing. The point of the Mike Vrabel conversation that I agree with is that if the Titans got blown out and lost by multiple scores, 2 or 3 scores, then I think that negatively affects Mike Vrabel. But I honestly don't know, because I think it's so cloudy and misunderstood and confusing in that building and what we all are hearing. I don't think it helped him. I don't know that for a fact, but it only didn't hurt him. I think if they played a close game.
If it didn't hurt you, it helps you. You just said it.
I don't think the Titans winning in week 18 against the Jags changes Amy Adams-Strunk's mind if her mind was already on moving on. I don't think it does.
I don't think, but the point is that I don't think Amy Adams Strunk's mind was moving on.
I don't know either. But like, I said if Amy Adams Strunk's mind was I'm moving on from Mike Vrabel, I don't think yesterday should change that.
Do you think that yesterday had a positive impact? And that's my point. The win for Mike Vrabel, and you may not want Mike Vrabel as the head coach. I don't know. I mean, that's an opinion, right?
I think because it was behind Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, I think it's like kind of, I don't think Mike Vrabel was the one who has the positive impact from it. It's not negative by any means. Because Zach, who was the last head coach?
Well, they're playing for themselves and their coach. I mean, they're playing for their team. The coach, I mean, you got to stick that when you're losing games like they were losing games. The coach has got to stick the team together. No doubt. And yesterday's win, I think, shows that.
But I don't necessarily think it doesn't guarantee that Vrabel's back. I don't think it really changes that much if Vrabel's back. I think that decision has to do with other factors than yesterday's game. I was going to ask you, who is the only head coach that Amy Adams Strunk has fired as controlling owner? Well, I guess there's two. Who's the last one? Who's the most recent head coach that she has fired as Titans controlling owner?
Mike Mularkey.
Right off of a playoff win, right? And it wasn't about like that decision to change coaches was not about that success there. It was about projecting forward. I think the decision about Mike Vrabel is about projecting forward, not about right now or even 2024. I think it's beyond that.
I mean, of course, when you're keeping a head coach, you're thinking about the future. But the way a coach coaches within a season impacts your decision. And the way that Mike Vrabel coached this year, love him, hate him. He fired a special teams coordinator, whether it was his decision or not. He made a change. And then when the season was lost, they didn't lose out. And I think not all teams do that. You know, like they still had fight. The Arizona Cardinals, their season was up. They still had fight. They beat the Eagles last week, right? I do think that is something that the coach can stand on. And when you are having a conversation, I coach my players to the end. And I think that's what Mike Vrabel exudes. And not all coaches in the history of NFL football can say that.
But I think regardless of if they held on to that win yesterday, which they did, or if they let it slip away, I think that's already known about Mike Vrabel. Like, that's my point, is that
but you're making decisions based – I mean, what have you done for me lately does matter.
I know. Okay. So, all right, let's move on here. We've got a ton of Mike Vrabel conversations to have moving forward. We've got some super chats that we'll definitely get to here in the show as well. But I think we have what was one of the coolest Derrick Henry videos that comes out of yesterday, and we'll play that here in a second. But first, I want to tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who you can go to, who you can trust, rely on to get you through that injury, because injuries are just a massive inconvenience in life. If you're an adult, you got a career, a job, you got stuff to do, you got a family to care for. You can't be dealing with a bad ankle, shoulder, back, knee, hip, whatever it might be. Don't let that thing linger. Go check out our friends and the experts at the Bone and Joint Institute in Franklin. They got all the resources right there under one roof. Online, boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports, we are powered by BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app right here. The bonus code ATOZ Sports. Get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. For new users, use the bonus code ATOZ Sports. If you are a new user, download the BetMGM app in your Apple or Android app store today.
All right. So, Zach, a lot of really good Derrick Henry video. We're going to play through some of this, but I think what was one of the coolest moments that we got to see yesterday, which is something that we don't get to experience from the vantage point that we got it yesterday. But Derrick Henry going through the tunnel at Nissan Stadium for the last time through his pregame entrance video gave me all the chills. that's awesome, right? Like, I think
so you'll remember that forever, Austin.
Yeah,
that will
forever.
be ingrained in your memory. You'll never
No,
forget that.
But something like, I think I don't know if anybody watching the show right now, I sure as hell haven't. I have never run out of a tunnel with thousands and tens of thousands of people screaming for me after hearing my name be introduced on a jumbotron. Like, that's something that not many people get to truly experience. It's running through the T and at Tennessee. It's having all the cool intros, but the smoke for Derrick Henry and the fact that we got to see like what that feels like from the inside going out there was pretty cool. So I thought that was a pretty sweet moment.
Yeah, no, it was. And I go back to it because of social media, because we have that yesterday will be remembered. I think that it will, because Derrick Henry was such an impact to this franchise when truly they were in transition, right? I mean, coming off of the controlling owner, speaking of, that whole situation, they finally found their coach, their quarterback, their running back, their franchise player on defense, whether it was Kevin Byard or whether it was Jeffrey Simmons. They kind of found their own in that period. They had a lot of bad picks along the way, but they had some good ones. And I think it stabilized the franchise, but it didn't stabilize it like a franchise quarterback does, right? Like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes, guys like that will stabilize a franchise for decades, essentially. That was when you hitch yourself to a running back, the lifespan of a running back is shorter. We know that he's hit 30. We all know that was his last game, presumably. And you take it for what it is worth, and you appreciate what he did for the franchise, which was quite a bit.
No doubt. So you talk about franchise quarterback. Well, you saw Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry standing next to each other before they were introduced to the Nissan Stadium crowd for the last time together. Derrick Henry was asked about, and Ryan Tannehill said that they shared a few words, and it was hard for Tannehill to keep his emotions in check during that moment with Derrick Henry. And here was what Derrick Henry had to say about that moment and Ryan Tannehill yesterday.
Oh yeah, we just said it was one last time, man. That's my brother. I love Ryan, man. These last 5 years, we've been together, growing as players, help one another through adversity, and it's been fun as hell to be able to experience these 5 years and the things we accomplished. We ultimately didn't get it done, but it's a lot of things that we can look back on and be happy about. And him and his wife and my girl, they're close, and my daughter loves his kids. So, Tannehill's always family to me.
And I think that's the thing that we don't recognize is, Ryan Tannehill has been through a hell of a year in a negative way of roller coaster emotions. He talked about it yesterday of not being his favorite year, but having to be a pro and walk in the building and not be a Debbie Downer, but have a smile on his face and help his teammates as much as possible. And then to remember what this guy was for the franchise, and then what he and Derrick Henry were able to do together, and that connection between teammates, or they call themselves brothers. They've been through a lot. Their families are tied to the hip together through these years. It is something that's pretty interesting overall. And to hear Derrick Henry talk about Ryan Tannehill like that is something that really, makes you remember what these guys are doing every day.
I also think a part of me, it took a certain quarterback to play with Derrick Henry, right? Like Derrick Henry takes some things away from your offense. That's been documented. We know that. Now he gives you quite a bit, right? But you got to kind of play that the right way. And I thought we saw, their best moments in 2020 when they were throwing the ball all over the field. They got the most out of Corey Davis that you'll ever get out of Corey Davis. A.J. Brown was superb. The 2,000-yard season, everything was clicking. You had protection finally, from the offensive line. The defense played well, and they won a lot of games. And so I thought that was the best. That season exemplified the height for that period for, consistency of what a really good prime Derrick Henry was with a complementary offense. And they were kind of searching for that ever since, I thought, at least.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And then getting to Derrick Henry, he talked to the Titans fans on the Jumbotron. He said he was asked to do that. So here's what Derrick Henry had to say about thanking the fans about and what he had to say to them in Nissan Stadium on the Jumbotron.
No, I was just saying in the moment. No, it's been a great 8 years. I've grown. A lot has happened. Through these 8 years, I turned 30 in year 8, and had my daughter. Through these 8 years, and I've just grown as a person and a player. Had some great teammates, great coaches, and the fans has been there. The fans been there through it all. So it was just just a thank you to them. I know how I worded it probably got blown out of proportion a little bit, but it was just a thank you speech, just showing love to the fans.
For the moment, Joe, did you thought about doing that, and how do you think it went off?
Well, they just told me after the game they wanted me to say something on the Jumbotron, so it was just. From the heart and off the top, kind of freestyle a little bit. Hope I did good. Hope y'all liked it.
So I had a moment yesterday, Zach, where I was like, and we'll talk about Derrick Henry and his future in a different show, but the Titans did everything operationally for the fans just in case it is done. Like, is it done in cement and written in permanent ink? I don't know, but they made sure as hell to make sure that every opportunity they could get, they took advantage of. And so I don't want to think it was a premature like ceremony or anything, but it almost is going to be kind of awkward if Derrick Henry comes back because of all these things that he's done,
Yeah, I don't know how the offseason is going to go, but I think Henry will be wanted by somebody else, and the Titans with their money are not going. And also, you got to look at what didn't get recognized. Tajay Spears had a pretty damn good game yesterday.
Yeah.
We
Tajay
talked about Spears has been good. Tajay Spears has been obviously the best backup that Derrick Henry has ever had in this season. Now they've had a unique season, but yeah, I mean, it makes too much sense. It was done the correct way. I thought it would have been awkward if they would have gotten blown out 38-3, right? Like that, it wouldn't have gotten that same emotion and feels. And it's good when you close a chapter in one's life or timeline or career or whatever. It's nice when you get to close it the right way. Now, the best way is John Elway, Peyton Manning, Jerome Bettis, Michael Strahan. But that was not going to happen. This is probably the second best for a team that wasn't going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt. And Derrick Henry, I thought I said that the coolest video we played earlier, I think this was the most impressive moment from Derrick Henry after that game yesterday in Nissan Stadium.
It means a lot to me. And, it just wasn't individually, me accomplishing those things. I had a lot of teammates that helped me, accomplish all those accomplishments, and coaches as well. And definitely want to thank our equipment staff, Matt, Joey, Jerome, David Manor, Jordan, Justin, and Trey, who contribute that nobody sees, make sure I have everything that I have, and I'm ready to go on game days. And even our security, Jeb, that's my main man, and him and John is making sure I'm set, anything that I need, anything that, I got any questions about, or, make me feel at home as possible. So I want to thank them as well. The kitchen staff, Elon and her staff, Jeff, I'm going to thank everybody. Jeff, Johnny, Pam, Miss Marilyn, Chris, just all of them, just making sure that I had everything that I need, and all our teammates, because I'm very specific on what I eat every morning, but, and Bob with the avocados, making sure that I have my avocados every morning. So I want to say I appreciate them, to the cleaning staff, to LaCoya, Johnny, Leroy, cleaning our locker room when it smelled like the Nashville Zoo. I appreciate them as well. So, just want to thank even Robbie waiting on me 2 hours after the game. Dwight, Puff, my guy. I'm just thankful for everybody who's been a part of this journey. And like you said, with the accomplishments that I had, they play a big part in that. Just want to thank everybody. Nate with social media and Donna with the pictures, making sure I had everything I had and make sure I looked dripped out when the pictures were posted. So I'm just thankful for everybody and thankful to help me and to get where I am. Even Jim with the great articles and making sure that you put everything out there that made me look professional, a great guy in this community, and everything you represent. I think you're a great guy, man. I think the world of you, and I hope one day you get a chance to be able to write that article about Titans winning the Super Bowl.
I wonder what shade of red Jim Wyatt's face was during that moment, because I never have seen a player or something like that. Somebody like Derrick Henry shout out a member of the media. Now he's works for the team himself, but
He's an employee of the team.
Yeah, right. But still, like, damn, Jim, I think the world of you. Derrick Henry thinks the world of Jim Wyatt. And I think most people would say the same thing because Jim's that type of guy. But yeah.
Well, that video represents how much Derrick Henry cares. Like, he's a good guy. He's a good person. He, I don't know. I mean, that takes, we all kind of know that this is his swan song. This is the last time. And he took full advantage of that. And he came across like he is. And that's hard to do for a lot of people, right? To come across actually how you are. That is, I feel like, from what I've heard, inside the building, just from when media is not available, that is Derrick Henry, is that he is a very likable, lovable person that is not rude, is not condescending, doesn't think that he is the biggest guy in the room, even though he's the biggest guy in the room. And I think that tells you something about the face of this franchise over the last several years. So that should make Titans fans feel good of who they've been cheering for all these years.
Right. Because Derrick Henry is a very specific person. Clearly, like, if Bob is the avocado guy, right? You got to have the avocados right, and you have to have the thing every morning the right way. And Derrick Henry needs that from Bob and needs that from everybody else to make sure he can be a Hall of Fame running back. And so it just opens up the true picture of all of these things look great. Derrick Henry gets to run through the tunnel and blow the kisses out to the fans, but Bob's doing the avocados. You got everybody in the kitchen staff cleaning up the locker room that Derrick Henry appreciates, that everything comes in to play, that, it is an all hands on deck type of operation.
All right, before we move on to the age game, I am going to give everybody and you a little trick of the trade, and maybe Bob, about avocados. So
from Mexico?
From wherever. If they're avocados from Mexico, if they're avocados from anywhere. A little key to make sure that they are the best of the best. When you purchase them, soak them in water and put them in your refrigerator for about 5 hours, and then take them out, and then you can set them on your counter. It rehydrates the avocado. So whenever you do go to eat the avocado, it is fresh, it's ripe, it's bright green, it's not moldy. I learned that about a few months ago, changed my life. So maybe Bob knows that, but shout out to the avocado man there in the Titans. But that's a little trick of the trade for avocados from Mexico or wherever.
All right, super chats before we get to the age game. Andre said they hadn't played like that since the Bengals game. If only right. I hope this win doesn't really keep Kelly, Bowen, hoteling, and the special strength and conditioning team coaches around. Conversations for another day. Andre, another super chat, says Texans momentum and confidence from young staff and rookie stud gaining confidence after a 180 might be a bigger deal than hurting the Jags momentum. Yeah, but the Titans they already lost control over that.
The Texans this year felt like the Jags last year, right? With the momentum, young quarterback, playoff, AFC South champion. Let's see what the Texans do. They get to face a backup quarterback at home in the playoffs. Now, Flacco's playing out of his skull, but that is something to watch. That's good storylines.
Yeah, no doubt. Puka comes in with a couple super chats. Eddie, next to last game was the Ravens playoff game where he got stiff armed by Ray Lewis off the field. Surprise, Austin forgot about this. Guys played for themselves and Eddie and Derrick, not Vrabel. Next to last game was the Ravens playoff game. I don't remember that. I don't.
Next
Zach,
to last game? Or?
Yeah, because Eddie left after the 2003 season.
I mean,
and
we
played.
Can find out Eddie George's last game.
Yeah, it was the oath. He either played in Dallas in 2003 or Dallas in 2004.
Let's see here. We checked the stats. So Eddie's last game was in 2003.
Last game with the Titans?
Yes. He played one season for Dallas in 2004. And his last game was against the New England Patriots. Loss. And that was after the wild card win against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore.
Okay. So Puka was correct. Second last game for Eddie was I know what you're talking about now, Puka. The stiff arm on the sideline with Ray Lewis. Then
night game.
Man, Drew Bennett's my guy, but Drew Bennett dropping that pass in New England was a tough moment there too. So there you go. So it took us a second, but we remembered Eddie George's second to last game right there. But all right there. And last super chat, because I have to read it because it's a super chat. But Ryan says, Austin, you want to do a profile picture bet? If Washington beats Michigan, you can choose any Tennessee picture for me for a month. Ryan, no disrespect. I know I don't care about your profile picture, but I also am rooting for Michigan tonight because some of our best friends, she went to Michigan. And so I'm hoping I am also go blue tonight, just like you, but at least you've got two go blues, right? With your Kentucky and Michigan.
Hold that, Ryan. So we'll find something at some point where you'll say something that pisses Austin off, and then we'll find a bet there. But it's not for tonight because Michigan's favored. Michigan's probably going to win, but I would love to see Washington upset them.
Yeah, hey, man, if you're wanting a better draft pick, have Michael Penix ball out against Michigan, and maybe he jumps up there ahead of you at 7.
Maybe so.
All right, Zach, you ready for this age game?
I'm ready if you're ready.
All right, age game time here on the show, but always a great shout out to our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon and say hey to Payne Bone for us out there or online. Once again, WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Zach, the age game, I'll toss it over to you. I am now hiding the chat, so I cannot see the chat. First age game in a long time because we've had a couple Monday holidays here.
That's right. This is a difficult one. Okay. And I enjoyed doing a little research on this, and I will say to Ryan and Jake and all the other ones in the chat, do not Google. Guess. And you may get it right, you may get it wrong, but you're going to have to guess. This is a very difficult one. So I'm going to go through it, but do not Google. And if I find out you're Googling, you're putting in time, you're going to be put in timeout. That is not a threat. That's a promise. King Henry. King Henry is the king, right? The most famous King Henry was King Henry VIII. How old was King Henry VIII when he died? I will give you the year that he was birthed, okay? That was on April 22nd. That actually was when his reign began, so I don't want to say that. He was born June 28th, 1491. King Henry VIII, the most notable King Henry of all the King Henrys, he actually was married 6 times. And the uniqueness is that he changed the Church of England as the controlling body from the Pope so he then could divorce his wife. So he had so much power, he impacted the Church of England to take over reign from the Pope so he could divorce his wife because that would have been illegal against the church's views or viewpoints. And so how old was King Henry VIII, a bigger fella. That's your other hint.
King Henry VIII and Derrick Henry. King Henry maybe leaving after his 8th season. Let's see. 1491, the birth year, right?
June 28th. Never forget it.
Yeah, right. I'm going to say King Henry VIII with his 6 wives, creating divorce, being a bigger fella. I'm going to say he died at the age of 39.
You're going to lock that in?
Sure. I have no idea. It's complete nonsensical guess.
All right, we go to the chat. Gabriel says 30, so they're going young, just like you're going young. Now, the average age back in the day was not 77 like it is now. So I do think you're on the right track there. 35 from DeMarco. Stephen King says 47. Nick says 48. These are all wrong. Bork says 67. That's wrong. Koss says 47. That's wrong. Our girl Liz, 51. That is incorrect. Also is 52. 41 is wrong. 45 is wrong. 57. Connor says that is wrong. Puka, 50. I knew this was going to be a tough one. We had a couple that the chat, nobody even got their guesses. So this is a little payback for the chat. Ode to the chat. Jody says 53. One of the closer ones that we've had. Ooh. Titans Kyle, 51. That's wrong. You've got 19. I'm glad people aren't Googling. This is justification. Mark D, 27. That's wrong. Devin, 64. 58. Nate's burner. That is wrong. And we have our winner. It is Brandon Tyler. So you are incorrect. He was older than 39, but he needed to be a little bit healthier. He was an obese man and he died. Brandon Taylor, our champion, at the age of 55 years old, did not live as old as, back in the day, you just don't live as
most
old.
Kings, right? Kings should live. Yeah.
Right. But had a lot of wives and ate a lot of meals, maybe fresh avocados included, but 55, King Henry VIII. That's how long he lived. And Brandon, only for you, we are going to give you 40% off all of our merch. You can get yours today. I've gone in the back end, and Brandon, exclusively, if you go to shop.A2ZSportsNashville.com, you will get 40% off all of our merch. You get a t-shirt. You can get yourself a hat. You can get this pullover. This pullover is nice. It's winter's chill out there. So Brandon Tyler, after a lot of guesses, 55, you got that correct. Congratulations.
There you go. I just dropped the link in there for the gear too. So, all right, guys, that'll do it for us. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Mike Vrabel stuff, a lot of Titans rumors that are going to get set up, but Sam will be live later today for Titans at 2. Open locker room is later this morning. We haven't yet gotten a time that I've seen for a Mike Vrabel press conference. I've not seen that come through my email yet, but that has not been scheduled. Typically, Vrabel talks today. We'll see how that goes. So Titans at 2 this afternoon, Buck Rising live for A to Z Sports Primetime tonight at 8. Make sure you like the show. Hit that like button. We need more likes on the show as always. That helps us grow. It helps you guys have more friends in the chat to communicate with. And that'll do it for us. And we'll see you guys tomorrow on a Tuesday morning. Appreciate it as always.
Adios.